Thinking of playing Boots and Saddles, Air Cavalry in the 80s from the Assault game series. So we are in the American direct fire phase. So for this basic introductory scenario, not using spotting, I think that, so we're just using line of sight. I think both of these platoons are going to do simultaneous fire against each other. With the full rules, the fact that the Soviets are in that urban strip there and the Americans are in the woods there, I think means that it would be variable spotting, which would make it very interesting. But anyways, that aside, we're going to get some direct fire in here, which is good. But boy, the interesting little touches are adding up. So that unit over there. So I wanted to, since these platoons are heading up over the hill that way, I wanted to put this platoon in cover. And I will go ahead and say that I think I'm spoiled by other and newer games like this at this same scale in thinking things are basically too easy. When I looked at the cover rules, no, I totally assumed that I would look at the cover rules and it would say, you know, if the unit doesn't do anything else, it can go into cover for free. Nope. Going into cover, entering cover counts as movement for the purposes of operations point expenditure. So the fact that the rest of the company moved up over here, changed into combat formation, moved up over here through this terrain, no longer visible. Well, actually, that wouldn't have mattered anyways. The fact that it did that means that this unit is effectively not doing anything movement-wise here, including not getting into cover. Now, if there was a target, it could certainly do its firing, no problem, but otherwise, I mean, movement, yeah, it's pretty significant. So, wow. All right, so let's do some direct fire here. So it'll be simultaneous, so it'll really be just going through and computing these direct fire attacks. You know, since we are at our first significant direct fire phase, I should go over these steps because these are actually fairly important. So you have 5 main steps to the fire phase. And remember, both sides are firing during this phase, so it's kind of a mutual fire phase, kind of. So you have declare all missile fire. We're not going to have missile fire here, but just to look at the detail here. So you're going to declare all missile fire. Then you're going to attempt to spot units firing missiles. Then you're going to resolve all fires. Then you're going to check morale. And then you're going to attempt to spot firing units. Wow, very interesting. Okay, I'm glad I saw this. I had not even noticed this before. Okay, I'm just going to start going right down the list by section for direct fire. I wanted one American M1 platoon to fire at these Soviets and these 2 Soviet T-64 platoons to fire at the M1 platoon. Range is 4 hexes between them, 1, 2, 3, 4. Line of sight is fine because this is sloping down and away from the Americans. Formation, the Americans and the Soviets are both in combat formation, so that's good. They can fire normally. Except, here's movement. A unit may not fire in the fire phase of the friendly player turn, so we're talking about the Americans, if it moved in the first movement phase. And it did move in the first movement phase. So I guess it's not allowed to fire. So I guess that means the Soviets can fire at the Americans, but the Americans are not using direct fire in return. It also says movement in the second movement phase does not affect fire. Wow. Wow, so if I had known that, that means the Americans should have waited and only entered the tree line, gotten to the tree line in the second movement phase. The second movement phase Of course, that means they're not firing until later anyway. Oh, maybe that's why second movement phase doesn't matter. Huh. All right, so I guess the Soviets still get to fire. Okay, so I don't see a reason why they can't. I guess the Soviets get to fire on the Americans, but the Americans don't get to fire back. Okay, so let's go through direct fire. This is obviously anti-armor fire. Okay, so I can put away the American firing data table. So I'm going to pull out the Soviet direct fire data chart. And I'm going to find the line for the T-64. Both platoons are T-64s, and they are going to start out with APDU, armor-piercing depleted uranium rounds. Now, rate of fire is 1 for the T-64 with APDU ammunition. That's 1 per step. So this is 2 fires, 1 per step, and 3-4 fires, 1 per step, for 4 altogether. Yes. Range is 4, so the base to hit number is 6. The base to hit number is 6. Okay, so base to hit is 6. As a matter of fact, I'll put that out. Base to hit is 6. Multiple targets in the hex. If there's only 2 steps, American steps in there, so you divide by half and subtract 1. So 2 divided in half is 1, minus 1 is 0, so there is no modifier. Cover. We would modify if the Americans were in cover, but they're not. So interestingly, right now, for this direct fire, the fact that the M1s are in the woods means absolutely nothing, which is an interesting way to look at it. Okay, so I think we're going to find out how many hits we have. I guess you can do one. I guess you can do one shot at a time. So, okay, so the first shot hit. I guess I'll do penetration now. Actually, APDU automatically penetrates. Yeah. Oh. Wow. They actually only got 1 hit. So let me make sure. So penetration, you would normally do penetration. However, a hit from AP armor piercing or armor piercing depleted uranium ammunition, which is capable of okay, yeah, okay. So we have 1 hit. We need to determine, we still do need to determine penetration. So at range, okay, it's going to work though. At range 4, with APDU ammunition, the T-64 has a penetration of 18. 18 exceeds the frontal armor of the M1 platoon there of 16. So actually it does penetrate, and so then we don't have to do a hit confirmation. It hit, it penetrated, so it results in a hit, a step loss. Now I think is when, so it takes a hit, it's now a half step, a half size platoon, or 1 step. Now, yeah, I thought I remembered that. So now it automatically goes into cover at the end of this phase. So it took a step loss, it automatically goes into cover. Yeah, there was something else. Yeah, so in general there's a hit procedure, then there's penetration procedure, and then for anything other than AP or APDU ammunition, there's hit confirmation. It's interesting. Okay, so that was direct fire. Yeah, that was direct fire for this phase. Yeah. Okay, a lot of little, not a lot, but definitely not a basic game. But yeah, a unit that receives a hit is also suppressed. So it takes a hit, is now a 1-step unit, which reduces its rate of fire, by the way. It automatically goes to cover, which makes sense, and it's suppressed.